Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode. Hopefully everybody is staying safe and sanitized like always and keeping up with your work. Today we're going to look at how Congress works. We've looked at what Congress is, how it's set up, some of their powers. Today we're going to look at the members, and we're going to look at the organization, and we're going to look at how things operate inside of this building. Here we go. First of all, there are rules. If you're going to have Congress, if you're going to have a bunch of people that create and make your laws, that means they're going to have a debate at some point. You need congressional rules. It helps Congress operate. It keeps debates official and formal and professional, right? The House of Representatives has way more rules than the Senate. I wonder why. Why do you think the House of Representatives has more rules than the Senate? If you answered because there's more people inside of the House of Representatives than in the Senate, ding, 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 you'd be correct. Here are your leaders in both houses of Congress, folks. You have the House of Representatives being led by someone called the Speaker of the House. Here is your official Speaker of the House. Her name is Nancy Pelosi. They basically run the House of Representatives, and they are third in line to be president, thanks to the 25th Amendment. They do things like set up the calendars, and they schedule bills, not bulls, by the way, for debate. Over in the Senate, it is actually being led by your vice president. I don't understand why our founding fathers did this, but they put the vice president in charge of the Senate. I'm sure that it worked out in the 1800s, but today it doesn't really work out that well because the vice president's kind of busy. The vice president really only shows up if there's like a tie on something. If the Senate is trying to vote on something and there's tied 50-50, the vice president will show up and make a special appearance. The real leader of the Senate is someone called the president pro tempore, and it means temporary. That's what the word tempore means. It's mostly a symbolic position, but it's given to the longest serving senator in the majority party, which we'll talk about the majority and minority party here in just a second. So here are your congressional leaders, folks. By the way, if I ask you on your test, who technically runs the Senate? Your answer is going to be President pro tempore. So folks, before we continue, you have to know the difference between something. We're going to mention majority party and minority party a lot. The word minority in this case does not mean race. The word minority in this case means the political party that is not in control of that particular house. So let's look. In the House of Representatives, you have more Democrats right now than you do Republicans. So Democrats would be your majority party in the House of Representatives. Republicans would be your minority party in the House of Representatives. But we have a bicameral Congress, so we have a whole nother house to look at. In the Senate, the majority party is Republicans, and the minority party is Democrats. Now, this doesn't always happen. You can have some presidential terms where both houses are the same party. It's happened before where the House and the Senate are both Republicans or both Democrats. Right now, we have a split Congress, which means one house is being controlled by a majority party that is a different party than in the other house. Here are your leaders of these majority and minority parties. So you can see here is your Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer. For your assignment today, you're going to look at some of these leaders. So here's a little teaser for this. They are the majority leaders in the Senate, folks. Here is your majority leaders in the House of Representatives. Now, for the sake of this class, all I'm going to ask you on your test is that you know the difference between majority leader and minority leader. Like, you know that each house has a majority party and a minority party. You know the difference between the two, and you know that there are leaders for both of these. I also ask that you memorize this, a party whip. Some of you, I think, would be amazing party whips. These are people that the political parties send out to whip people into shape. If I'm a Republican and I know that Congress is fixing to debate gun control legislation, I want to say so in this because I do not want guns to be banned if I'm a Republican. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send out a party whip to make sure that every single Republican in Congress is going to vote like me. And I'm even going to send party whips to the other party members to see if I can whip them over to my side. Some of y'all would make great party whips. If you are one of those people that can talk someone into doing something or manipulate someone or carry on a conversation well and people like talking to you, you might be a great party whip. So here's kind of a chart, a visual representation of how Congress is laid out. So you see we have one house, the House of Representatives. We have another house called the Senate. You can see who is the leader of the House of Representatives. Over here in the Senate, we have the vice president, and then it goes on from there. So you have the majority leaders, the majority whips, and the minority whips, and blah, blah, blah. Now, each congressional member doesn't do things all by themselves. This is not a solo effort. This is very much a team effort, folks. Each congressional member has their own personal staff. This staff helps them at home and in the office. They do things like gather information for their speeches and for bills that they may be writing. They help predict the cost of certain programs. Here you see some places that the staff can visit, like the Library of Congress, folks. The Library of Congress is located in Washington, D.C., and it is the biggest library in the country. It literally contains everything ever. Here is what it looks like. It is an essential tool for congressional operations. Whenever they're debating bills or creating new bills, they go into the Library of Congress and they look through everything. It's amazing. They have everything in there. They have Abraham Lincoln's Bible that he swore in on. They have all kinds of stuff in there. But these are all the books that Thomas Jefferson read through when he was writing the Declaration of Independence. They have Benjamin Franklin's books in there. They have John Adams' stuff in there. Not only does staff help the Congress do their job, but Congress also was broken up into committees. Congress developed committees to help with the workload. I mean, think about all the issues going on in this country right now. I mean, if I could flash them all and scroll through, it would be endless. Everything going on right now. Congress needs help. There's too many things going on in this country for them to try to do everything one at a time. So it's time to break up this workload and do a bunch of things all at once, right? So there are 3 different types of committees. There are committees that will be here forever. We call them standing committees. They're standing like statues because they're never going to go away. They're permanent. These are things like education, healthcare, defense. These are committees that will never go anywhere. Then there are committees that are only here for a temporary time. They're called select committees. They are about select issues. You know, like when our president was shot and killed in Dallas, Texas in 1963. Our government put together a committee. It was called the Warren Commission. And the Warren Commission's job was to figure out what happened to Kennedy. They didn't stay around. They're not still around to this day. They were only around for a couple years. They made their filings. They wrote their report. And then they vanished. That's a select committee. And then there are committees where both houses work together. Keep in mind, in these committees, it's based off of seniority, which means it depends on how long you've been in Congress. The people that have been in Congress the longest will get the leadership position. These party leaders will make the assignments for the committee. So folks, another easy day of notes. We've looked at how Congress works and we've looked at some of the members. We know that Congress has rules and that helps them operate on a daily basis and function in that high tense job. We've even looked at the House of Representative leaders being led by someone called the Speaker of the House. We've looked at the Senate leaders being led by someone called your Vice President. We know that each house has a majority party and a minority party. And the word minority does not mean race. It means the political party that is not in control. So in the Senate right now, your majority party is Republicans. Your minority party is Democrats. In the House of Representatives, your majority party is Democrats and your minority party is Republicans. That is rare. It's called a split Congress, and it's why nothing is getting done, and it's why everyone is arguing, because Congress is literally split down the middle. We've looked at congressional staffs. We've seen how the staff supports congressmen. They research bills. They gather information for speeches. They help budget. They help plan for money in bills. We've seen the importance of the Library of Congress, how the Library of Congress keeps a track of every single literature needed to debate bills. We've seen how Congress is broken up into committees, and this may be the most important part of today's lecture. These committees is what helps Congress operate on a daily basis. There is so much stuff to do every day in America. Congress can't afford to only look at one thing at a time. They need to be doing multiple things. And how are they going to do that? They're going to break it up in committees. Some of these committees will be here forever, standing. Some of these committees will only be here temporarily, select. And some of these committees involve both houses. It's called joint committees. Folks, I hope that everyone is staying safe and sanitized and keeping up with your work. If you need me, please reach out and email me. But if not, I'll see you tomorrow.